Well, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well this morning. Yeah, look at this. Crazy, isn't it? Where are we? Psalm 55, verse 9. All right, let's go 9 to 15. 9 to 15. O Lord, on them destruction bring, and do their tongues divide. For in the city violence and strife I have espied. They day and night upon the walls do go about it round. Their mischief is, and sorrow there in midst of it is found. Abundant wickedness there is within her inward part, and from her streets deceitfulness and guile do not depart. He was no foe that me reproach, then that endure I could, nor hater that did gainst me boast, from him me hide I would. But thou, man, who mine equal, guide, and mine acquaintance wast, we joined sweet counsels to God's house, in company we passed. Let death upon them seize, and down, let them go quick to hell, for wickedness doth much abound among them where they dwell. Well, talk about an imprecatory psalm. It's one, isn't it? You know what I keep saying? I'm going to bring some kind of tune book in here. This might be a good time to get one. Yeah, let's get one. Be right back. Oh. Morning, afternoon. Oh, goodness gracious. Let's see here. That's one I'm thinking of. There's a couple of these I think of, and then I can't think of it again. Man, this is brand new. It's old. No, that's too pretty. Tell you what, I'd like to sing this to salvation, but I don't think I know it well enough. Been so many years since I've even sung it. Do mi so do la do mi re do la mi so la sol do re do re do re do. No, I can't do that one yet. I'm gonna practice that, and we will though. That's a pretty tune. I like it. Well, let's try Liverpool. It's been a long time since I've sung this too. That's a pretty tune. I like it. Do, mi, so, do. Oh Lord, on them destruction bring, and do their tongues divide. For in the city violence and strife have I espied. They day and night upon the walls do go about it round. Their mischief is, and so there in midst of it is found abundant wickedness there is within her inward parts, 'tis, and so there in midst of it is found abundant wickedness there is within her inward parts, 'tis, and so there in midst of it is found abundant wickedness there is within her inward parts, 'tis, and so there in midst of it is found abundant wickedness there is within her inward parts, 'tis, and so there in midst of it is found abundant wickedness there is within her inward parts, 'tis, and so there in midst of it is found abundant wickedness there is within her inward parts, 'tis, and so there in midst of it is found abundant wickedness there is within her inward parts, 'tis, and so there in midst of it is found abundant wickedness there is within her inward parts, 'tis, and so there in midst of it is found abundant wickedness there is within her inward parts, 'tis, and so there in midst of it is found abundant wickedness there is within her inward parts, 'tis, and so there in midst of it is found abundant wickedness there is within her inward parts, 'tis, and so there in midst of it is deceitfulness and guile do not depart. He was no foe that me reproached. Then that in I could, nor hater that against me boast. From him no hide I would, but thou, man, knew mine equal guide, and my acquaintance wast. We join sweet counsels to God's house. In company we pass. Let death upon them seize and down. To let them go quick to hell. For wickedness doth much abound among them where they dwell. It's a little too minor for them on the shore. I always liked it. It's called Liverpool. What's the day? 10th, right? Today's 10th. 2/10. 02/10/22. All right. Yeah, I like it too. It's a good tune. Well, can't do that. Guess I can do this. Excuse me. $357 in the BB book. Man, it's another sonnets. We sung sonnets yesterday. I believe it was 357. I bet it's in Gadsby. If and you have a Gadsby. If you don't have a Gadsby, you ought to get one. Well, no, it's not. I'm surprised. The good old way that leads to God, which saints in every age have trod, was Christ alone. They saw his day, and him pursued the good old way. When Adam sunk his unborn race in ruin and guilt and deep disgrace, the promise with celestial ray to Jesus points the good old way. The apostles all proclaimed him thus, Jesus the Lord, or God with us, who did by death our ransom pay, the truth, the life, the good old way. 'Tis true there's one exceeding broad, cast up by men, a dangerous road, where thousands to destruction stray, who never found this good old way. Cheer up, believer, courage take. Why should thy heart with sorrow break? Eternal joys shall soon repay the sorrows of the good old way. Should foes and fears on every hand, thick as the leaves in autumn stand, still forward press. The day is yours. The good old way the crown secures. I like this one too. The good old way that leads to God, which saints in every age have trod, was Christ alone. They saw his day, and him pursued the good old way. When Adam sunk his unborn race in ruin, guilt, and deep disgrace, the promise with celestial ray to Jesus points the good old way. The apostles all proclaimed him thus, Jesus the Lord, or God with us, who did by death our ransom pay, the truth, the life, the good old way. 'Tis true there's one exceeding broad, cast up by men, a dangerous road, where thousands to destruction stray, who never found this good old way. Cheer up, believer in the Lord. Why should thy heart with sorrow break? Eternal joy shall soon repay the sorrows of the good old way. Should foes and fears on every hand, thick as the leaves in autumn stand, still forward press, the day is yours, the good old way the crown secures. I should know better than to try and go by memory on something that's been so long since I've sung. Yes, I should. What in the world? What in the world is all this? Well, morning, morning, morning. Ah, excuse me. Need something to wet my whistle. Ah, well, look here. Now, ain't heard what in a while. Yeah, it's Coca-Cola. Just what the label said. Not even doctored. Oh, wet your whistle. Yeah. Yeah. It shows you how old I am. Now, I want to read just a couple of verses from 1 Corinthians chapter 2. We looked at verse 1 and 2 of 1 Corinthians chapter 1. And I hope to look at the rest of chapter 1. But I want us to look at 2, 1 and 2 before we do. I want you to, because if we do get to go through chapter 1, you need to keep in mind what's written here in 2, 1 and 2. We know chapters and verses are man-made divisions. Paul wrote a letter. And to me, this is the climax of all that's gone before it. We're going to hit the climax and then go back and look at the rest of it. And now, brethren, notice something here. Paul calls them brethren. There's a lot of people out there today that would wish, that Paul, instead of calling them brethren, would have said, you folks, you laity, you people. If I remember right, and brethren, correct me if I'm wrong, laity comes from the Greek word laos, which means people. Boy, they wish they'd do that. But Paul doesn't set himself, even though he is the apostle to the Gentiles, even though he is specially called of God. And yes, I will say it that way. The other disciples were called specially as well. Don't get me wrong. But Paul was called, he himself says, as one out of due time. As he was going down to Damascus to persecute the saints of God, the Lord Jesus appeared to him. And in appearing to him, he was struck blind from the glory of God that was in the face of Jesus Christ. Go thou into the city, into Damascus. It'll be showing you there what you must do. What did he tell old Ananias? I'm going to show him what great things he must suffer for my sake. Yes, that's the way it is. But rather than style himself as an apostle, he introduced himself as an apostle. Of course, they knew he was an apostle. These folks knew him before. He spent some time with them, didn't he? But rather than set himself above them in this case, he says, and I, brethren. If Paul was alive today, he wouldn't wear a backwards collar, nor any type of different garment than the average person wears. There's no such thing as clothing making you more spiritual, more religious, or whatever. It might show you're more superstitious, but that's about it. They didn't dress any different than the people around them. They might have dressed more modestly. They might have dressed without as much adornment, but it wasn't significantly different. That's what I'm getting at. Paul wasn't wearing no gown and cassock. He wasn't wearing no robe. Well, except the kind that all of them wore back then. He doesn't make a distinction. I, brethren, and I, brethren, when I came to you. When I came to you, came not with excellency of speech. I didn't have studied out discourses. You read anecdotes of some of them old timers. I ain't talking about Baptist, well, primitive Baptist anyway, old school Baptist, maybe some missionary Baptist. They'd have to change locations every so many years because they'd preached up all their sermons. Somebody BB lampooned made the statement, man, I got sermons, 5 years worth of sermons here that I can give you, and they're good ones too. I don't know that I got one Sunday's sermon in me. The only thing I got's what God gives me. But that guy had 5 years worth. And that's about right. They go 5 years, 7 years in one place, preach out all the notes that they had, and went back. Went somewhere else. Some black place that hadn't heard those words before. And the more they did it, the better they got at it, and the more excellent their words were, and their speech became more polished. So if that poor old country congregation that got the first of it, and that big city congregation that might have got the last one, heard a far different orator. In a lot of cases, that's true, isn't it? You know it is, and I know it is. But Paul wasn't that way. He didn't come with excellency of speech. He hadn't studied out his sermon. He hadn't made notes and points and all that good stuff. I came to you not with excellency of speech. I came to you not with excellency of wisdom either. My goodness, Paul. What are you talking about? You know you're wise. You sat at the feet of Gamaliel. You told another church that you were more learned in the Jews' religion, far above all your equals. Indeed, you really had no equals. You're wise. No, that's the wisdom of this world. And I can't come to you with that and call it spiritual. Excuse me. What's spiritual is what comes to you from above, not what you've learned in school. And I'm going to say it like that, in school. I notice I didn't say in college or in seminary or anything like that, but rather in school. You know why I said it like that? I'll tell you why. And I'm going to use myself as an example. I sat under the ministry of Elder Jim Poole for years. And I consider myself blessed to have heard the gracious expositions that came from his lips. And, brethren, that was school to me. I learned things. Yes, I did. I learned a lot of things. And in that school, sometimes spiritual things were revealed through these words that were being spoken. Other times, just the natural mind feasted on it. But none of it gave me any wisdom when it comes to declaring unto you the testimony of God. Eloquence and wisdom need not be there. I think we've all heard the story. I can't remember the names that were involved, but the great Shakespearean actor that's been in the late 1800s, early 1900s, was at a gathering and was asked to recite the 23rd Psalm, and he did, and everybody oohed and awed over it. Such wonderful eloquence, such power, such great delivery. And then the host of the party brought up this old man, preacher, and asked him to recite the 23rd Psalm. And when he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. The hardest heart was moved to tears. And they asked the actor, they said, you did a great job on that, but what's the difference between your rendering of it and his? He just said, I know the psalm, but he knows the shepherd. Worldly wisdom and eloquence will get you oohs and ahs from the world. It'll get you pats on the back. It might get you a big church with a big salary. But it is not indicative of spirituality or even spiritual life. I came to you not with excellency of speech. I came to you not with excellency of wisdom, but I declared unto you the testimony of God. Isn't that glorious? He declared the testimony of God. And what was the testimony of God? For I determined not to know anything among you save Jesus Christ and Him crucified. Well, now that'd do for 3 or 4 evangelical sermons, wouldn't it? By golly, you could preach Jesus Christ and Him crucified, and that would get you some converts, and then you could teach them the correct doctrine. Listen to me, brethren, sisters, friends, enemies. Everything is wrapped up in Jesus Christ and Him crucified. You want sound doctrine? It's in Jesus. You want a glorious experience? It's in Jesus. You want to find forgiveness of sin? It's in Jesus. You want to find deliverance in time? It's in Jesus. I was determined not to know anything among you save Jesus Christ and Him crucified. Because by that crucifixion, by that death, the sacrifice was paid for the sins of God's children. And because that sacrifice was made and accepted, well, let's back up. Because that sacrifice of His was acceptable, it was accepted, and death could not be holden of Him. and he was raised from the dead by the power of God, by the Spirit. And he took that life back onto himself after he laid it down. My. Isn't that wonderful? That everything we want, as far as our needs are concerned, is to be found where? Oh man, it's out there in the world. You need to be a go-getter and get you some of it. No, it's in Jesus. I'll tell you what, brethren, the older I get, the more that's what I want to hear. I want to hear quit looking at yourself. Quit looking at your brother or sister. Look to Jesus if you're his. Look to Jesus. That's where mercy's found, in him. That's where the glory of God is manifested, in the face of Jesus Christ. That's where we see everything. That's where we have everything treasured up in all spiritual blessings is in him. Brethren, I have to take this phone call. I apologize. Lord willing, we'll be back.
You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. This call is from an inmate at Southwood State.